All right, we're back. Thank you for hanging out across the break. Thanks for joining us today. Um, we are here with our guest, Peter Wu, Peter Wu Plus. He told me
Plus is silent.
the plus is silent. Yeah, it's a good. It's a bit of a catchphrase. The plus is silent. I liked how quickly you said that when I asked you when I you like knew exactly what the question was that was coming. Um, so okay, one of the things that in our last segment that I wanted to bring up and talk about a question that I had that just didn't quite fit is you've been making work in a professional capacity for a while, and
Yeah.
we were talking a lot about the internet. Would you characterize like when you began making art that the internet was in kind of like a much more uh, infantile state? Like it was a lot younger and like less important to the artist's creative practice and like presence than it is now.
Well, I mean, just for my practice, I think, I mean, I wasn't a net artist, so I wasn't necessarily using the internet as a medium per se. But I studied, I did my undergrad in video and multimedia and sculpture. And then I went to grad school for like new genres, which basically means anything goes.
Mm.
Which I was still working with video and installation based works. And my practice is pretty much now all digital. I think when I hit a certain age, I said, fuck it, and uh, just started making the things that I wanted to make and geek out on like sci-fi stuff, which I love. And that's where my practice has gone and where it's led me to now.
Mm.
So I think it's all an accumulation of experiences that's happening. And um, I think that's what epoch is, an accumulation of transformations, and it's coming to a pinnacle with the gallery, and it's also influenced my work and how I'm thinking and whatever not. So
Yeah.
I guess that's where plus comes in too. Peter Wu plus is that I was working with AI and I was noticing that this thing was writing better than I was, sometimes creating better paintings than I was because
Mm.
I was using it in my practice, um, and then I was like, wow, this is not just me anymore. This is and I shouldn't make this artist centric. This is me and something else. And then when
Mm.
Epoch happened, it just seemed fitting to just keep it at the plus there because now it's just me and a community of people, and it's just not me focused. And I really kind of like that idea.
So do you
So,
think of AI and technology as like a studio assistant?
yeah, sometimes even better though.
Mm.
It can, I mean, it definitely can write better than I can in some instances. I did a piece where I had two hands that were glowing. It's on my website, peter-wu.com. And it's two hands that are glowing, and one of them is a dream that I'm recounting, and an AI's response to my dream. And it's the AI is coming up with things that are much more crazy than what I was coming up with. So, and in that way, it's like not just an studio assistant, but like it's actually a collaborator in the
Mm.
whole process. So, yeah.
Wow, that's deep. What
Deeper
I
than
get
dicks.
it. I get it.
what is what are the for some of the more techie people, like what are some of the machine learning or AI interfaces that you're using? Are you using the
I'm
man,
using Deep Dream,
Deep Dream? Okay.
but I'm using TensorFlow to connect
Okay.
to Google's AI. And there's also something online for everybody to use. There's something called runway.ml, which is a really easy interface. So people who don't know how to code can just plop things in there and then they can get results. But if you want to get more technical with the parameters, then you have to actually use like TensorFlow or something like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been like on peering over the edge of getting into that world in
Mm.
Yeah.
my own personal practice, and it goes. Well, yeah, there's a
I'm
lot
just
to
waiting.
it.
I'm waiting for the virtual, or trying to figure out, maybe I don't know if I can do it, but like bring the virtual, like what I'm doing with EPOCH, and meld it with the AI stuff, and have it create backgrounds for me and stuff like that, or 3D models and of cities and stuff. So, but I don't think it's there yet.
That's what Minecraft's for. We can just do that in the meantime.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
There's this new algorithm that's generating images just from words. Have you seen that one?
Just from words?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay.
No. I've been a little bit outside of the current, what has happening in the AI world, because I've been focusing on this virtual space. So I need to pick it back up, because I'm going to be using GPT-3 for my next project at the airport.
Yeah, I'll share this with you just while we're here. So this is OpenAI DAL-E is the the new parameter. So an armchair in the shape of an avocado, and it generates those images completely out of just the text.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's
it's kind of amazing. I mean, look at that.
That's terrifying. Wait, okay.
That's amazing.
This is my first scene. Wow.
And then you can create a sculpture from that. Look at that. That's crazy.
Oh, so many iterations.
Yes.
Different,
it's such a tool. It's such a tool.
You don't even need a photographer anymore, let alone make the piece. Like, put everyone out of business.
Yeah, so they let you play with it here, so you can do a tissue box in the style of a fossil.
I mean, this is what's amazing about it. It's like where does our role as an artist? So when I was working with AI, I was like, what am I, like, if I'm not as good as this thing, how am I? Where am I positioning myself as an artist? Like, I mean, I guess I can bring the ideas together, but when is it going to take the time for it to be able to do that too? So it's an interesting thing to think about as just practice. Like when you can just plot some words in, if you're like, I don't know what sculpture I should make, and then you come up with this fucking shit. Look at that. That's crazy.
Yeah, some of these are
amazing.
Incredible.
Things can do. I mean,
so now we get it on both ends. So one of my most formative kind of art school experiences that I think is like kind of toxic now is one of my painting professors took us to the Nelson Atkins and took us to a Caravaggio and was just like, hey, like, y'all are in school to learn painting, so like this is what you have to be better than. Like it's like, just know what you're up against.
Caravaggio?
Yeah, you just gotta, like, if you want to be a painter, just know that, like, this is your competition. So that you have that on one end, but like, if you're teaching a class, Peter, you could be like, okay, like, let's go to OpenAI DALL-E, and be like, oh, if you guys want to be digital artists, like, this is what you're up against.
Digital art, it's just art.
It's just art, yeah, right.
Yeah. This is nothing.
But we're all digital artists now. I mean, we're like, we're imbued with it.
This is some crazy times.
So now you get it on both ends. It's either you got to be
really
be better than the past master Caravaggio and our future master OpenAI.
I mean, I just think it's like what the idea you want to use it for. I mean, it's all context in a certain way. I think we're in a new time of just context, trying to figure out where we're positioning things and how things are positioned, because everything's just so floating around in the ether on the internet and the social media. There's nothing tied to the real world in a certain way. So if we had a tissue box that was like the ones we just saw, or the avocado chairs, sure, those are quite interesting images and they could be interesting objects, but how do you position it in a context that could be meaningful to in general, not just in the computer?
Yeah. And that's something that you're working with this project. Yeah. Like, EPOCH is valuable outside of just its own internet decontextualization. Like, it's contextualized in the body of work that you're making, in the community that you're forming with the artists, and then also now looking to connect this work with ways for artists to be compensated for their work, be compensated for their efforts with the introduction of the NFT portion of the exhibition.
Yeah. So just to say about, and just to talk about Epoch just a little bit more on
Yeah.
previous shows, I kind of try to not go into too much fantasy world land, even though yes, it's a virtual screen and you're going into a new world essentially. But all the architecture, most of the architecture I use is pretty much lately, especially, have been tied to something that is real. So I did a piece where
Is
I
there
used
a different
the
one to pull up?
demolition of the, yeah, go to exhibitions, go to Phantom Limb.
Okay. We
So
can
this
have this
one
behind
is
us.
so the LACMA was destroying the Amundsen building, and there was a bunch of photos on it. So what I did is I recreated the LACMA from the ground up from pictures, and then destroyed it and made it look pretty much very similar to what it looked like when it was getting demolished. And I put 10 artists that were Latinx in the show, and it's quite post-apocalyptic, obviously, which I always always go towards for some reason. I always go towards some kind of post-apocalyptic thing because of the sci-fi thing. So sci-fi is a great tool in a certain way to kind of bring something that is not happening in the real, and then taking it that aspect and kind of having you reflect on it and think of what it is. So it's not necessarily science fiction of what I'm doing. Maybe it's speculative fiction in a certain way, which is a higher branch than sci-fi. So yeah, there's you can zoom in through the whole building and stuff like that, and we can just let this one go.
Yeah.
That the piece right down there is Catano Ferreira, and he's a great artist, and he actually got the when the LACMA was getting destroyed, he actually got parts of the LACMA, and he photogrammetried them, and then we put them in the show. So they're actually parts of it in the show.
Oh wow!
That are from the actual LACMA. So I thought that was a nice bridge between the two worlds. So yeah. So again, yes, it's slightly fantasy because it's post-apocalyptic, but I'm always trying to bring it back to something that is real and that is bringing up some issues. Because I think if you go totally fantasy based, which I'm not a real fan of, fantasy versus science fiction, you're kind of going away from something that is sort of criticality. Whereas this is, I think you can kind of get to the meat of things sometimes.
For sure. And just for our audience members and their fellow co-hosts that also don't know, aka me, like how are you getting these? Just what programs or images that, like, how are you getting these, like, scanning these images of pieces of, like, the actual LACMA being put into the space, like, to kind of create these worlds?
I think for Catano used he has a nice scanner, 3D scanner, but most of the time it's just photogrammetry, which is just the process of taking. This is crazy. You're taking photos around the object, a lot of them, maybe like 100 to 300 photos of an object, and just going around it. And then you can process the 2D photo and make it into a 3D object. So that's the process of photogrammetry, which is quite insane if you think about that somehow the computer knows from each angle to reproduce that and have volume and captures the textures correctly. And whatnot. So it's pretty amazing.
Wow.
So,
and for this particular piece, so you said this is the LACMA owned this, or this is an old building of theirs that they destroyed, or what's kind of the story with that?
They're building a new LACMA, so there was a little bit of controversy of that because they brought an architect from Switzerland, I think, over, and I think it looks, so they're destroying the building to kind of build this new museum, which has less square footage than the one that they destroyed, or all the buildings they destroyed. And he's not really native to Los Angeles, so it kind of looks like this weird blob that they're trying to make. And people are like kind of really upset about it. And, it's kind of this, I don't know, this weird revisionist type of way of thinking.
Interesting.
But, yeah, so this is actually the building that was destroyed, the Amundsen building that they demolished for this new building to come up. I think it's going to come up in a year or two or something like that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so LACMA is out of commission at the current
No,
moment.
no, they have others. They have the other sides, like the Broad is, even though the Broad section is open, and
Okay.
Is it the Brunch? Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, because I'll just say briefly, there's this artist in St. Louis named Tim Portlock who makes kind of somewhat similar work. He uses it more, I think, as like a means of. Oh, okay, hold on.
Sorry, it was getting hot. I got the lights on.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So Tim Portlock kind of uses architectural ephemera like this in digital spaces. And he kind of used it just, kind of as a means to kind of make a statement on, kind of infrastructure in decline, especially kind of creative and artistic ones, specifically in St. Louis, but also using certain imagery from like Chicago and stuff like that. I guess I'm just curious too, beyond, the LACMA or something, is like, is that kind of maybe the idea that you're building worlds and that there's structures? I'm curious, like, what speaks to you in that space of like what's your kind of maybe history or your interest in like buildings and structures and their histories?
I mean, I think, the building is a lot of way a metaphor for the body. I mean, it's like how we protect ourselves and stuff like that, but also there's different rooms at different parts of the body. So I think it's just like a metaphor for kind of ourselves in a certain way. I mean, the whole epoch itself, the whole journey is a very allegorical kind of story in a certain way, dealing with certain topics. At first, I'm kind of tackling with the destruction of a gallery space on this island. So that's the very first show. And then I started going into more political issues, and then there's a show called Substrata, which I'm trying to. So this one, Phantom Limb, is talking about the institutions and the fragility of institutions and stuff. And then Substrata, which was the show before Wonderland, is talking about kind of how do we reimagine an artist institution or a space that's open for arts and stuff like that without basically institution. So that was in collaboration with Alice Kunitz's Los Angeles Museum of Art, which is also kind of a very similar process or practice to EPOCH, where it invites artists into, but hers is a physical space where she designs these kinds of, not really, I guess they're architectural, but they're kind of like display systems in a certain way. And then she has artists in there curated within the show. So it's quite similar, and I thought it would be a nice bridge between the two, EPOCH and the virtual. So she created the pavilion for the space, and I created the environment, and we both co-curated the shows, and then I did all the rendering and re-rendered the architectural space and stuff.
Wow. Okay.
So what is it like to operate a gallery space and so there's like a strong community of artists who are involved in making it happen, but one of the things that can't happen in this space versus a physical space is like the opening, or like the community coming together in a moment of viewing. So I'm curious how you feel about that and its pros and cons for this exploration.
I mean, I don't necessarily like openings in themselves.
Well, then it's perfect. Now we see why you did it.
I mean, there's other ways you can do. You can have Zoom openings or stuff like that, where during pandemic people are doing that in certain ways for their online shows, or whatever. But I necessarily don't do those because I just don't want to bother with it really. So I think that all the show is there. People go see it, and then then they share and chat about it. And, I mean, I have a Discord now.
Okay, cool.
So that people can actually engage with me a little bit more and ask questions and stuff like that. So I think that's a little bit more of a community-based thing rather than me sitting here in front of a bunch of Zoom people and
droning on.
Droning on like I am now.
That's
right now.
That's every Zoom I've ever been on. Yeah, no, I that's interesting. I think that the Discord space has a lot of good possibilities.
Like Microzilla Hubs is another kind of platform which is very easy for people to create online virtual such VR shows, and you can have an avatar that kind of zooms around. But there's limitations with that, where just like it's kind of like Minecraft how you build it. It's quite like, if you ever use, it's quite really easy and fun to actually do and build stuff in it, but it's just like there's a limitation to the CGI and what you can do and accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other online virtual galleries that are very actually more fantasy based and certain like that you can actually move around like a video game. But I chose not to do that because I wanted to utilize the full spectrum of graphics and CGI and rendering, stuff like that, and create these environments that are quite a little bit more immersive, I think, in that way. And also, I kind of go about it very cinematically, where I'm starting a scene for you and I'm leading you through things, and yeah, just like kind of like a movie in a certain way. I'm from LA, so it's like taking you through certain things. So things are revealing things, and things have a crescendo, and then they kind of end at a certain point. And so you kind of maybe hopefully get a full spectrum of what the whole show and how all the pieces work together within the architecture and amongst themselves in a certain way. So
I can't wait for the show Holly Weird. That'll be really good. That'll be it.
Holly Weird. This is all Holly Weird.
That'll be great.
Yeah. I think it adds to the, some of those dystopian science fiction aspects too. Like if we were all in VR chat and I was dressed up as like a penguin and we were all walking through the gallery together, like it might feel like dystopic in a different way, but not in this way where like going through this, like you do feel alone. You feel like this is a private space
I think,
for you.
This was created during the pandemic. So this idea of being inside your house the whole time and not really engaging with people was really fitting. Maybe I did try to do a chat version in the Labyrinth show, but because I didn't have a map for it, because it's obviously a labyrinth and I wanted people to kind of get lost in the whole thing. And so I did have a chat function in that, which I was experimenting with, but I noticed that nobody went to the chat because like nobody wanted to engage with anybody else in the show. So I'm just like, okay, well, unless I guess if you're an avatar, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of curious about that idea too of like, are there, I think that what's happening is it's becoming, pardon the pun of, COVID, of like these kind of spaces are becoming less novel and becoming just more of like, no, like I have a gallery space online, and it's like, no, that's just part of our new landscape. I'm curious if there's been people have kind of onboarded or kind of been far more like interested in getting into space within the last year, if there's been like a sort of cultural rush towards this, or since you've been in the space pre-pandemic, I'm curious kind of like what kind of culture changes you've noticed of people being in, typically in the more physical gallery, but now more maybe in a digital space.
I think a lot of institutions are trying to have the meld between the digital space and their physical spaces, because I don't think they can, if this ever happened again, another pandemic, I don't think they could fare well with it. So they are trying to really have a more of a digital component to their whole program. I think they're struggling because they don't know how to do it, and which sometimes obviously requires teams of people to actually try to implement it and whatever not. Or they can just use Matterport and just 3D scan the whole spaces and just go about that way. But I think galleries themselves are even more stubborn to do it because they are stuck within their traditional ways of thinking of how to sell works and stuff like that. And that, it's interesting seeing when the pandemic happened, that all these galleries were using Matterport and just 3D scanning their spaces. And it's like, well, I don't want to go to your virtual representation of your white walled space because it's just like, it feels like a tomb. It seems more empty than actually going to that white walled space. So it's like, it was really quite odd that they didn't really take the advantage of full VR or full environments like what's going on here. I think it's because they are tied to their identity of this space, which is supposed to be something that is church-like or whatever not, to try to sell these works through this space. So they're so tied to this identity, this physical identity, that they couldn't utilize the whole take advantage of what virtual is. So they were stuck. And I don't think I don't know how I don't see them even progressing within this, because I think they're still tied to this 100-year-old system of how to sell an artwork. And I think with this whole new NFT thing, it's got them in a little bit of a kerfunkle. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with it, because I don't think NFTs are going away. It may be in a slump at a certain moment because of the market and, coins falling and whatever not. But I think it's definitely something that's going to be important into the landscape of how art is seen and how art will be transactional. So
yeah. I know we'll probably jump into the NFT thing in just a second. I have to say, I think it's fun too, though. Like you're mentioning that these galleries are operating in such a
halo above you.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, angel.
That they they're operating in this sort of like church-like state, that they're not like actually getting into the space. However, you've also brought LACMA into your space. Like you've kind of brought them in a sort of in disrepair space, that there's this, like, it's not just one way or the other. It's like 6 different ways actually that you can.
Well, it's interesting with the LACMA show is that this was the most popular show and still is the most popular show that was visited and for traffic wise. But it was, I usually get, like good 3 pieces of press per show, which is really amazing for a virtual gallery. But for some reason, nobody wanted to write about this one. Nobody wanted to touch the LACMA destroyed. So it was interesting. It was really weird. I'm just like, when I first created this show, I was like, this is it. This is the best show. And it's like, and then nobody wrote about it because I don't think anybody wanted to go against the power structure,
Interesting.
So, and the shows that do get probably written the most are the ones that are probably the least political ones, which is really weird. I mean, Fallen Monuments was a really political one because that came out during the apex of Black Lives Matter, and that one got really great reviews. But it's interesting, like the one that's going on right now, which has to deal with the Chinese diaspora, artists from the Chinese diaspora, doesn't have a lot of press. There is going to be something written from Hong Kong magazine called Haichi Magazine, which is going to be a long review, but that's not coming out for a couple of weeks or something like that. So, but no American writer or Chinese American writer or Asian American writer wanted to write about the show. So it's really weird. I think we're in a certain way, I'm feeling that everybody's really exhausted about talking about racism and stuff like that. And so when there's all this violence against Chinese people or Asian people, especially women, it seemed like it wasn't getting as much traction, obviously, as say Black Lives Matter. I think people were just exhausted from it, and nobody was really trying to help out and share with all this stuff. So but that's a bummer to talk about.
Yeah, I mean it's fair to talk about, and I think that there is a big difference, and we notice it here in our community too, is that like there are political things that are fair game, and part of it, and then there are also like controversial things, like you're saying, that go against major art institution, and like that people are not wanting to, like our livelihoods as artists depend so heavily on our good graces and standings with these art institutions that like if you have a blemish, it's easy to think that like if there's a blemish on your record, that's going to potentially be the designator between you getting the work and you not getting the work, or you getting shown and not getting shown. And then like I think of like work on the internet, and not in like the traditional sense of like outsider art, because I think that we all are, in some ways insider artists as well. But like I do believe there's a shifting in kind of the territory of what we can explore, using live platforms, what we can explore using digital platforms. And then at some point that can potentially like free us from those other, having to be that other way.
Well, so my approach to this is like, I don't have anything that's holding me down, say as like rent or shipping or anything. So I'm not really tied too much to the system, which means that I can actually go not just against it in a certain way, but I can actually criticize it in a certain angle. And approach it in a way that I don't think a normal institution or gallery could do, because they are risking a certain thing. You know what I'm saying? So I have a lot more freedom in my space to kind of bring up certain issues, which, and I'm approaching it from, an artist's viewpoint, and not necessarily a market point. So I'm trying to kind of free up things and do things that they can't do necessarily, or they're too scared to do, or I don't know if they're scared, but
Well,
Well,
the market dictates, right? Like if you have $4,000 a month rent as a
yeah.
gallery in DTLA, you have to do certain things to make sure, you
Yeah.
support your
So
families and
a lot
support
of
your livelihood.
artist-run spaces have usually a 2-year lifespan. And it's because they every gallery that starts up always wants the people who are running it. They always want to do something great and change the world and stuff like that. But they always come into that aspect where they have to pay the rent, so they have to start showing like popular artists or painters or whatever not, and to try to pay the rent, because they can't do these critical shows all the time because they can't afford to do them. And then they eventually get um, assimilated into the system, and they become another just regular old gallery and showing the regular artists and propping up the same system that has been propped up with the same people for all this time. And I think I'm liberated in that way, where I don't have to do those type of things and follow that kind of path. And I think that's where the advantage of having this kind of virtual space and having a certain criticality, and having not just white walls, and that knowing that the white walls also have context. They also have context that are imbued within the system. So,
And then you can literally create the world you
yeah,
want, not just like the gallery you want, but the world you want,
yeah,
and kind of being like, well, I want these artists and these people, but I want the structure to look like this. I mean, I
yeah.
think people comprehend, like, I guess I think they like get it, but they don't like get it of like how exciting the space is. And honestly, I have to say, like, my mind is being blown as you're speaking with this, because like I'll be fully honest and transparent here. There's part of me that is like seeing like certainly like Minecraft, based spaces where like I've done a lot of like music stuff. So people do like raves or something in the Minecraft
Yeah,
space, or do like a Second Life rave, or do
yeah,
a rave in like a sort of like created world like this. And I've been kind of like, yeah, that's cool.
mhm,
But it's like, no, it's like so cool. Like what you don't like, the our ability to like, exchange currencies in that space, that we don't have to maintain these like physical boundaries that, hold us back entirely. And I think especially with the connectivity and the technology that we have in terms of like you said, the 3D scanning of like
mhm.
my very real object can exist at like to almost a life a real life realistic, but now made gigantic or something. The
Mhm.
scale of it can change so
Yeah.
big.
So a lot of the artists that I work with, they really come back to me and it's like, this is kind of shifted my practice in a different way of thinking
Yeah.
about things, because there's not a limitation monetarily or scale, or even like, and it's all quite site specific in a certain way. So they're thinking how to think about it in this digital instead of like four walls and that are white or whatever not. And I think they're appreciative of the things that are going on here. So
For sure. And just one other quick thing is, like you said, you kind of have this like
mhm,
cinematic lens to this. I could see how maybe some people would feel like if they're in a digital gallery space where they're able to interact with it and move themselves in different ways. I guess where do you fall line on those lines of like this is almost like a cinema versus like a walkthrough experience, like almost like a video game, like a VR or something equivalent to that. Like,
There's a
so
story.
it does operate in full VR on Google Cardboard on your mobile phone,
mm,
so you can kind of like look around. I do kind of see it as a bridge between yeah, the video game world and whatever that. And I don't have a problem with that. I think that's pretty, actually it gives it accessibility for people to kind
definitely.
of take in this kind of type of work, which may be more challenging than your regular internet type of thing or flat images. And it kind of like lures you in, and it, people say it's fun, so people get a certain thing out of it. People, I try to make it so that the high art people can appreciate it, and also people who are maybe not, that are more frightened about what art is, because they don't understand, they can appreciate it also because they get to experience something within this kind of new world or whatever not. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, I had a studio visit with our good friend Marissa the other night, and she was saying something to me about like the kind of the most she thinks like the most awesome place to be in the art world is you give something for people, art critics, like you give something for people to be critical of, but
Mhm.
then also like the average person loves what you're doing. So
Yeah, I think I
finding
did
that
that
balance.
in my normal practice too. So I would have I would use a lot of video mapping and projections in my installations. So um, there's a certain, I mean, anytime you use video, it has this definitely a cinematic kind of type of thing that absorbs you into it.
Hmm.
So there's a way of accessing it just visually and formally, but also if you want to go into it, there's also these other levels that I like levels.
Yeah.
Mm.
I never write really anything about the shows. I think all the context is there. So like I get a lot of writers and like, can we get the press release? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't write a press release. But this is what the show is about. I think the context is there. I'm really excited to hear what you want to write about and what you're going to say, because I think, it's an important show, whatever or not. So, and they always come back and they always write about something that, and they're using their brains instead of rehashing a
Mm.
press release. And and it's great what they're doing and their insights on what the show, and it really helps me kind of think about different things and different ways of approaching next shows. So
That's
it's interesting.
the Peter Wu boss move is no press
The plus
releases.
is silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. The press release is silent.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Exactly.
press
yeah.
release is silent.
All right, let's get into Freeport now.
Okay.
So that's the upcoming show, and uh, Freeport is opening June 12th, same
Yeah.
place, epoch.gallery. And
Yeah.
then, just so our audience knows, the NFT of the exhibition is launching June 19th. Uh,
Yeah.
and the press release I got for Freeport is Freeports are unregulated storage facilities that hoard art and valuables for the uber rich. These ultra secure warehouses exist outside of the territorial tax jurisdictions of any country. Freeports lack transparency, which can promote fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion. Yeah, if you've watched Tenant, you will know what a Freeport is.
So yeah, so what I'm doing there is I'm bringing the idea of a free port, and I'm modeling it after the Luxembourg Freeport, which is, if you Google the Luxembourg Freeport, it's quite a beautiful space. Free ports were kind of it, as the art free ports we know were invented kind of by the Swiss, and all the Swiss free ports are quite boring because they're just kind of like regular warehouses. But this one was built for billionaires, and it's
Mm.
beautiful inside and architecturally wonderful, but no one can access it. It's not like a public space, so it's only for these, as I said, uber rich type people. So it's kind of a weird space. And so what I'm doing here is um, I'm trying to bridge the similarities made between a free port and the NFTs, because they both exist in unregulated territories. There are constructs of capitalism, and they can elicit unsavory practices. So with a touch of irony, trying to circumvent these similarities by offering a unique concept for an NFT built on ecological, equitable, and sustainable model.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, this is the Freeport, and this will be the next show.
We got some super secret special
And
images.
so yeah, so this is a little bit of a reveal, which I haven't even showed yet, but this is great. So they had online the actual floor plans and elevations of this building,
Oh,
and
really?
I just modeled it, so it's pretty much to spec. So how you're going through it is pretty much how the actual Freeport is.
Wow.
I don't really know how some of the spaces are. The lobby's really accurate, the outside's really accurate, but I placed it in this kind of forest kind of area, and it's kind of swampy and stuff, and it's got vines all over it going. So yeah, if you look at the Freeport, we can see that
Yeah, this is
it's stuff. So
This is the actual
Yeah.
Freeport here.
So you'll see it more in the lobby and how similar
Uh-huh.
I get it in a certain way.
Yeah, yeah, I see
There's the lobby.
some
Yeah.
of these images here.
Yeah.
So,
So once we zoom into there, so
sorry.
so that's it. Yeah. Let's see if we can get the lobby. Keep on going first. Nope. 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 Go. Go. Too much review.
Uh,
You don't get the lobby photo?
I didn't. That's
Oh
okay.
shit. Okay.
But yeah, we trust that one. That one's the real review. The
Yeah,
reveal.
Yeah.
we'll save
You
that
gotta
one.
you gotta go to the opening of Freeport to actually see the lobby reveal.
So yeah, there's 7 artists in this show. So Neil Balufa, Sarah Rosalina Brady, Alice Bucknell, Juan Covelli, Alexandra Humantiki, Amanda Russell, and Rod Saab are in the show. So Alice Bucknell is a really amazing artist from the UK, and she's been really against NFTs from the Ethereum side, and I'm really fortunate to have her in the show and supporting what it is. So the difference between what I'm doing, so when I first was trying to get funding for what I was doing, I was applying through a bunch of grants and stuff, but like artist grants didn't really understand what I was doing. So they didn't necessarily see it as an art project. They were like, well, you're more of a curatorial thing, or you're more like a gallery, or some of them did see it as an art project, but they were like, well, it's too crossing too many lines, so they would never fund me. I'm like, I'm stop writing these grants because I'm spending way too much time trying to get this money that I'm not getting. So when NFTs came around, like, okay, so this is very interesting. And then a lot of the artists I was working with were approaching me, it's like, you are poised to do this. And I'm like, well, I guess I got to follow what they're kind of saying and kind of try to support them. And if I can get them money, then I can, and support and be sustainable myself so I can create future shows. I think this would be a great opportunity to do it. But how would I do it? So I never liked the auction aspect of it because it's just too speculative. And I also didn't want to work with Ethereum because of the ecological damage that they were doing with how they're running on the POW chain. And I also didn't want to mint artworks individually by artists because that would mean that I would have to prop one certain artist, and I would fall into the same cycle of having to get artists that were popular to keep the gallery going in a certain way. So I thought of it, and I came up with this thing. It's like, well, why don't I just go organically? And what I'm doing with EPOCH already, it already has context and stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm minting the entire show as one NFT. So everything that you're seeing on the online version is going to be offered as one downloadable 8K version that's playable in full VR on your Oculus or whatever headset, and that would be the NFT. So it's a compilation of artists within the show. So it's never been done before, and and I'm building a certain model into it. So I'm working with on the Algorand platform, which is a POS chain protocol, and it's 99.9% less impactful on our environment than Ethereum, which is a POW protocol. And I'm building a certain economic model into it. So 70% of all the proceeds that are sold go directly and split amongst all the artists. 30% goes back to EPOCH for all production and future shows. And then each artist also gets an AP edition of the show. So if they want to, hold on to it or sell it afterwards for whatever price they can also. And there will also be 20% royalties set in for secondary sales afterwards. Wow. So in a certain way, I'm trying to build a more equitable thing so that the wealth is kind of distributed through the artists and that we could try to make something that is a little bit more sustainable than what is actually the current market and going on, and try to, in a certain way, circumvent the accelerated speculation of what's going on also. So it's an interesting thing because it's ironic of what I'm doing in certain way, because I'm talking about a Freeport and using it as an NFT, but trying to also curb all those ideas of what an NFT and the art market is in itself. So it's an interesting line that I'm balancing on.
Yeah.
We're kind of forced to, I imagine, to some degree, but you gotta
Yeah.
make the best of it. Just really quick, what is the, and I'm still pretty new to the whole world of this, of like, so what is the like currency called again? What is the name of
It's
it?
Algorand, so they're called algos. You can get them on Coinbase or trade them on Coinbase. There's a bunch of wallets that you can get to kind of keep your assets or your NFTs and your coins and whatnot.
And I don't imagine you work for them, but I was just curious because I'm like, I want that. So
Yeah, I mean the
I'd rather
price
be
is really
investing
good
in
right
something like
now.
that.
Yeah, well, that's everybody. I think I'm not going to give investment advice or anything, but
Yes.
that's what everybody has to say. I'm not
Yeah,
giving
travel
investment
agency,
advice,
this is not advice. This
but
is
yeah, this is
conversation.
just conversation.
We
Yep.
like the
And,
coin.
a lot of people are moving towards more POS chain coins, so I think that's why people are expecting Ethereum to take over from Bitcoin because they're moving to POS eventually.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
They've been saying this for like 5 years, but they haven't done it yet. So, and I don't know how they're going to do it because of the economic structure they've already built and how that would make different changes or ruin what they've already progressed in doing. So I don't even know how they're going to do it at this point. But
Okay.
yeah, a lot of people are trying to move to more economic, ecological coins. So Algorand, Cardano, Tezos are POS chains that are seeing a big rise. Algorand's quite much a much newer one, but they're level 2. This is going to get super darky, but
Let's
the
go.
smart contracts are actually much more sophisticated. So they're level 2 smart contract. Ethereum is still level 1. Tezos is still level 1 in a certain way. Where now because when you mint an artwork, you're usually just minting it by yourself and that you are the owner. So with level 2 contracts, I can split up the profits between the wallets. So all the artists are just getting it divided automatically instead of it going to me and then I have to divide it to them.
Wow.
And whatnot. So there's certain things built in. Also, there's a contract that's a collector contract that will be traveling with the NFT, which states their rights and being very transparent of what the artist's rights are, which are something that NFTs don't necessarily do. I think a lot of these platforms and stuff are hiding what the responsibilities and what the rights are of the collector or even the artist, And so I'm trying to make that a lot more transparent with this thing that's going to travel with the NFT. I'm not going to be functioning as an auction place or even using the auction format or as a marketplace. It's just going to be a standalone store. Mm-hmm. So I'm working with this company that's a new startup called uncopied.art, and they're helping me mint and on Algorand, and they're a great company that is really progressive and stuff like that for these type of issues. And they're very they really want to protect the provenance of art and the authenticity of art, if it's digital or physical. So they're quite interesting in what they're going to be doing. So I'm working closely with them to kind of launch this show and this NFT. So and it'll all be open source so that hopefully other artists and galleries they can just take this kind of model and just put it and implement it on their own. So we don't have to be reliant on these super structures like super rare or known origins or whatever, all these other places, foundation, and that we can just kind of do this stuff on our own and not have to be beholden to these kind of type of marketplaces and kind of like, do our own thing. So
absolutely.
Yeah, the platforms control the content.
Yeah, I mean, they're just another representation of a super gallery, so it's and then it then plays into certain things and how popular you are or whatever not to get sold. And it's a weird rat race that I'm not trying to get into. So hopefully these things will get more adopted, and I think people realize that the power, and you can be autonomous in a certain thing, and if you don't have a gallery, then you can try to create your own, like how I did, and support other artists or whatnot. So there's all the different ways to approach it, and I think that's what's exciting. So it's not just NFTs that you can do. So you can do virtual shows, you can do other different content. You can have these things eventually like animate and change over time, and it's really quite. It's not as limiting to as a loop GIF.
Yeah.
Right.
Our little skeleton man.
Oh, yeah, where's our skeleton guy? There he is.
Yeah.
So, and I think what's going on with the market right now on these platforms is that we're seeing there was a certain influx of a saturation of this type of work, like that was this skeleton based thing, but I think people are realizing that that's not going to have a longevity, so I think I'm trying to bring this crypto world and the contemporary art world together, hopefully, and that I think positioning it as kind of like a video game in a certain way, if you want to think about it that way, is appealing to some of the tech bros, but it definitely has an appeal to the contemporary art world too. So I think that's a great way to position it. Also, all the artists' artwork inside the show, they still own the rights to it. So it's a beautiful thing when you encompass it into this one package, this compilation, that is the NFT. That is the kind of work. This whole show is the work, so that the artist's work inside the show, they can actually take that out and remint that themselves, mint it outside of that. You know what I'm saying? And then and do whatever you want with it. They still own all the rights. I'm just having like certain licensing thing with them. So yeah. So, and it also means I don't have to work with galleries. I don't have to give them a certain percent, because like I'm not like taking a physical art piece and selling it. This is a whole entity. So I'm actually getting around a lot of art world structures that other people have to deal with. It I don't really have to deal with.
You're just driving real fast through that intersection of art and technology. We're cruising through it. We're just.
I mean, if you're thinking about a certain model, also like 70-30, you know what I'm saying, and then the traditional model for a gallery is 50-50, and like if this actually does work, then how does that position you for these other things? You know what I mean? So I mean, galleries are not going to go away. I think galleries are still very important to the ecosystem of what this is, but they haven't changed much. You know what I'm saying? And how they do their practices, so, and how they function. So I mean, maybe hopefully this will, I don't know, try to do something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it. I think it's the best implementation that I've seen of contemporary art and these new NFT spaces. It feels like the most whole and connected and the least gimmicky that I've seen it so far.
This has happened. I mean, it's all happening organically, which is a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm forcing this onto something. This is something that EPOCH has already existed. I didn't do it for any money. Even I told all the artists in the galleries I was if I had approached a gallery for an artist, I'd be like, I'm not taking any money from you. This is, all inquiries that I get go directly to you or the artist. I mean, I don't want really anything at this point. So when the NFT thing came around and everybody was approaching me, I'm like, okay, well, let's figure out how to do it, but let's figure out how to do it at my own terms, where I don't have to play the same game as them. You know what I'm saying? So that I can also maybe introduce something that's different and that can challenge. I mean, I got a lot of spite storing me, so
it's good to have that.
I like to rub the opposite way. So, but do it in a way that's beneficial and altruistic for everybody. And I think that's what my goal is in a certain way with what I'm trying to do here.
And I have to say, Peter, when you brought up the spite store in our very first meeting together for the three of us, and I had to Google it as you said it, like right after. I was like, what is that a reference to? But and since we talked, I actually started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm that season,
Yeah.
and the whole Spite Store thing. I was like, oh, that's what it is. Oh, that's it. This is it. So I definitely
mean,
I definitely pick up on the
Larry
Larry.
fails in the end because but
Spoiler alert, but yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything for everybody.
Larry always fails in the end.
Yeah,
You know, he does. That's the
that's
point,
what I'm
right?
not
Yeah.
trying to do, but maybe it's a metaphor.
No, Peter Wu definitely is the
Maybe I'll
Larry
do
David
myself
of our
in.
world.
I'll do myself in, but I'll try. I'll go down fighting.
Yes, for sure. Oh my God.
All right, what about it? You guys down with a second break here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's get rehydrated.
So
Chill out.
it's
Let's do
12
it.
o'clock. We're going to take our second break. Thanks for everyone tuning in.
Thanks.
Things are going to be a little less focused in the third hour, so I hope you stick around and enjoy some more unstructured time with us today. So we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be back around 12:11. All right, we're back.
Oh, there's Jess's work.
Yeah, I thought I put on in demo for the in demo of the talk today. Give Jess a little show time. Thanks,
Hey, Jess.
thanks Jess for connecting us, which was great. So, yeah. So, what were we talking about on the break? We were doing one of those things where we were talking about something really good, and then we decided to not talk about it anymore because we wanted to talk about it on the stream because we're those guys.
Yeah. Well,
I think I was talking about the idea of how younger video artists are going against this whole very cut and paste type of video where it's like really quick shots like on TikTok, and they're taking their time with long form shots and long videos now, and it's really interesting that they're trying to I think react to what is the landscape of TikTok and all these other ways of digesting information and digesting videos and content.
I liked the Vine. I liked what was Vine? It was
Yeah.
7
Yeah.
seconds.
6 or
15
7, yeah.
It was
Was
7
it
and then it was 15.
Oh, okay.
They doubled it. I really loved the 7-second Vine. I was super into the 15-second Vine, but they were just one moment in time. I think at that time they people weren't condensing so far. Now when I go on TikTok, I feel like people are so good at that 60 seconds that
Yeah.
I can really get a full download in 60 seconds sometimes
Yeah.
of whatever humor it is or whatever moment it is that
They
talking
honed
about.
in their craft, man. They honed in, and there's something to that too. But at risk of what you're trying to portray as yourself and your identity, and who are you?
Mhm.
Are you just these compilation of videos and snippets, or where's your complexity? And a lot of times we don't see that. So
I was listening to this podcast a few days ago that was talking about that new Cruella film that Emma Stone's in. That's the big Disney movie.
it's not bad.
Did you? Yeah, you saw it?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay. Well, one of their kind of criticisms of it
Peter
is
went to
that
the
they,
midnight release. So.
yeah, big 101 Dalmatians fan over here, Peter. Which I mean, I am. I'll tell you what, that's my favorite early Disney
Big Lucky
animated
fan.
movie.
I'm a big Lucky fan myself.
Well, one of their criticisms was that the whole film was kind of shot like a trailer, or it was just a bunch of trailers kind of tacked together, or kind of music video editing was used a lot.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that that idea that even cinema, the beast of Disney itself is kind of reacting to that space, they're trying to meet the moment, and kind of in typical fashion, they're 3 to 5 years late. TikTok has been here for a minute, and people have been making clips like that, and are more fast visual culture certainly. So I think it's it's so deep in our systems that it's the way you even edit our lives to keep these attentions, is really curious.
I mean that has definitely changed cinema in the past 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
And how we're seeing movies getting edited, they're much more fast, and they're almost even a drama is like an action movie now, how they're cut and edited.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying it's interesting in that a lot of these younger artists and a couple of these artists that are in the Freeport show, they really take their time and they're much longer form videos, like 40 minutes.
Wow.
And, they're trying to get to a certain subject at a slower pace, which is really antithetical to their age and generation. It's interesting.
Well,
it's interesting that they're trying to reattach that because I think everybody's trying to react to something in their own. Whenever a medium comes on, people always try to react to a certain thing because they don't want to go to that the same mainstream and kind of maybe criticize the mainstream also.
What I think is happening is, and I don't know if I consider myself a young artist anymore. I'm getting up there, but what I've noticed with the medium of social media is that it can, and maybe this is like very boomer of me to say, but I'm thinking about it in a different way, is that the medium does really start to dictate the fashion in which you view your life and the fashion in which you view work. So like me being a painter, like I'm working just in like really tight parameters with my paintings right now, 2x2 foot aluminum panels, and it's just like now I'm seeing the world in 2x2 foot squares, and I'm trying to translate that to the car paint, the materials that I'm using, the layering. So I'm going throughout my day looking at about that size on the sides of garbage cans or on the side of cars or whatever, and it like is changing the way that I am. But I feel that to an even more extreme degree with Instagram is that like Instagram or TikTok, but particularly Instagram because I'm a Instagram boomer millennial, is that like I think about things in the context of like what would be a good post or like a moment in, even in these talks, like for a while there, I would like, oh, that was a good 60 seconds. Like, let me mark that down because that's the way that I'm starting to
like an acceleration of poignancy almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's changing the fabric, changing the fabric of the ways that we interact. So when we start making 40-minute long pieces, maybe that's like actually allowing us to spend time with our family over dinner without our phones.
Yeah. I mean, just in your case in point of like something changing your whole perspective of the world, when I started doing this, the EPOCH gallery here, I was so immersed in textures and different ways of kind of seeing how art could be that when I started going back to the art galleries, I was just like, wow, where's all the textures? Why is it all just a white wall? This is just so weird. And I just, it was just very strange experience and very alien-like and very odd because I was just consumed in this world for such a long time, building these worlds and
you see the one.
The funny thing in engagement, we all go to art shows or whatever not, and you spend maybe 15 minutes in the whole show, or spending how many seconds is it? So when you're seeing an artwork, 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But so the engagement for EPOCH on average, which is quite interesting statistic, is that people spend 10 to 11 minutes on average in the space.
Wow.
So, and that's for a website. I think the average website gets 45 seconds. So it's quite an interesting engagement time that people are spending actually a lot of time kind of perusing in the space and stuff like that. So
yeah, and also like understanding that a lot of time is 11 minutes now.
Yeah, totally. So
that's why we corralled you for 3 hours here.
But this is also that
hours. I'm like 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, and we always have that like sort of shock. That's like a performance we have with our artists, that we're like, yeah, no, we want you for 3 hours. That's our 40 minutes is 3 hours with our friends online. And I think that like, I mean, Twitch too. I mean, like Rick and I are consistently blown away by like the potential of just Twitch on its own, that people are able to kind of sit and actually just and enjoy this and kind of hear these long form conversations that I mean, but the thing is you can switch over in the second that you lose someone. So there's like this need to kind of maintain viewership and getting people in the chat and stuff like that, and having that sort of like meta data that comes with it. Like Peter, you were just saying like you can see like how long a person goes into the gallery is what you're saying. like that's incredible, you know. And like, but also like, I guess I'm curious, how have you like dealt with that in terms of like because like can you like see like IP addresses and stuff, like can you have like a rough idea of like who these people are when they come in?
I don't get necessarily. It's just Google Analytics, so
Hmm.
it's just
Okay.
telling me who from what location and maybe demographics, sort of say, but not
Okay.
like anything personal about them or anything. But I look at it as an interesting social thing. It's like
Right.
so some shows that are more political sometimes maybe don't do as well. Just they do well, but not as much as some other shows. So it's interesting to kind of see, like, I'm gonna bring up something for like I when I send out my mailing list. Usually like maybe 3 people unsubscribe. So it was interesting with the Wonderland show, which has to do with Chinese artists. 30 people unsubscribed, which was very
Wow.
interesting. And there, I
Wow.
all the people on the Mailchimp, you can see their addresses and whatnot, so you can tell where they're from and stuff like that. From and a lot of them for Europe, and most, I mean, all of them were white people. So it's really, really weird. I think
Wow.
that's where I came to the conclusion that people were really tired of hearing about this kind of stuff and don't want to deal with it. You know, like unsubscribing is a fucking effort.
Yeah.
You have to like go down to the bottom of the page and click a button. It's like it's making a decision not to just delete it. You don't want it in
Right.
your life at all. And
Hmm.
these are
Hmm.
people that have been following it from the beginning, and it's just like I'm like, well, I've been working with these types of artists this whole time. So what's the whole big deal? And my partner says, because you stated it. You stated it in the show. You actually wrote a
Mm.
little bit about it, about who they are, and they read it and they're like, fuck that. So yeah,
Well,
it's weird.
good riddance.
Good
Yeah,
riddance.
no,
I
I
mean,
mean,
Fuck
I'm
those
absolutely.
people.
fine with that. It's just like it's interesting to think about, like, and that makes me think like, yeah, this is an important show because it hit a nerve. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it makes me like, okay, it's not like I'm upset about those people leaving. I'm just like, okay, that's just like a nice, interesting, correlation or whatever not that's going on. So
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the negative metric as a positive metric,
yeah,
you know?
exactly. I mean, they say if you're rubbing someone the wrong way, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, or just we say something here a lot. It's like I'd be worried if they said nothing. The Kanye lyric of like it's like
Yeah,
the thing they said was I'm leaving. So they said
yeah,
something very loud
yeah,
actually, and it's
yeah.
just like no, they're going to there's a I wouldn't say a consequence with it, I guess perhaps, but I mean we definitely don't we're not hyped on them any longer. I just that too of like the social sphere of this, I feel like is something that people don't talk about a lot. Like from like I would say like a very primitive version of this is like, oh, this person like unfriended me, or
Yeah,
oh, this person like unfollowed me. It's like,
yeah,
no, this person left my like my person. This person only was in my gallery for 2 minutes, or they
yeah.
left my email chain. I guess I'm curious, like as an artist and like being in a community like that, and the communal kind of interaction has that like weighed on you? I mean, we kind of addressed that a little bit, but I'm just I guess more personally for yourself.
What do you mean by that, though?
I guess just like has it affected your work that you're like, well, I'm trying to be close with folks and like have communications where like I kind of don't care. I'm like, okay, if you have a physical gallery space, you
Mm.
can physically see if someone comes in or not.
Yeah.
So then you're like, no, great, that person's looking. Well, and and Rick and I in our Instagrams, but also in Twitch and stuff, like we can see who's entered.
Hmm.
And I think it has changed my perspective of like, oh, that person came to see the show. Or
Hmm.
like, oh, like this person got in the chat. That's so interesting. Or
Hmm.
like, oh, like this person like watched my story on Instagram. I think has kind of like shifted my perspective a little bit of like who's paying attention to me.
Hmm.
And maybe that's again like a very primitive kind of social media question, but I guess in this space of like actually physically digitally being in the space, if that's affected you at all, or if you have thoughts
Um,
on it.
I mean, I can tell by the mailing list how many times people click and open the thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, and there's sometimes that people clicked it 50 times. I'm like, that's crazy. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, that's sometimes that's the metric that I get. Just Mailchimp and Google Analytics is pretty basic kind of type
Mm,
of stuff. I don't try to do anything else other than that. But I'm here for the artists. You know what I mean? I'm
right.
here for them, and I'm here for trying to produce something that is that people will appreciate, that and who sees it and whatnot. I mean, they're definitely devoted followers that are interested in what I'm doing, and that's what I care about, in a certain way. So, yeah, I don't know.
It can kind of, it's like kind of focuses is like, I think the way to be is just like, we're doing this for our folks or for our artists, I think is really kind of the method that we're trying to go for too. So
Yeah,
I hear that. Absolutely.
yeah, trying to be artist centric and more so than, being a gallery in a certain way.
Right.
It was just fortunate, not even fortunate. There's epoch.gallery because epoch.anything else was taken. And I'm just like, well, I guess I can try to play that gallery line and just kind of mess with that and blur that line and see where it goes. So
for sure,
it did get me a little bit of things because everybody's like, well, you're a gallery. I'm like, well, yeah, I am, but it's more than that too. So
yeah, that's interesting having that
the art
attached to
world,
it from
the
the
art
front
world
end.
loves this idea of categorization, so that's a lot of the problems of what's going on with a lot of things, but categorizing as well, you're a gallery, but you're not like an art project, or you're just curatorial, or they can't do that. So it's like I was plagued with that my whole life, with like having a last name that is Wu, and then they're like, well, you make Chinese art. I'm like, well, not even, I'm from Canada. So like, and so that art, I was never curated at any shows that that had to do with Chinese artists. All Chinese artist shows were from China. So when I thought about Wonderland, well, why don't I do a show about the Chinese diaspora, and kind of have a new perspective of what expand that idea of what an Asian artist could be, so that is also from America or from Canada or wherever not, so that it's not so categorizing and whatever not. So yeah.
Absolutely. I do love the idea of kind of last name like .com. It's like everyone's gonna stuff me into some pocket just because of the name I have, whether URL or IRL in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy for people to understand, but it's a limitation because it's they're just seeing you as just for face value, So that's unfortunate, but it happens. I mean, that's how people understand the world, but hopefully we can get beyond that later on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and then we have spaces to explore that with basically no limits at all, and I think that's which is so exciting.
So that's why I'm always say I'm trying to exception these people, because I'm dealing with a lot of things that have to do with race and stuff like that, or identity, and I'm trying to ease them into it and being like, oh, I like that work, and then if they are not so for those type of people, then they're like, oh, well, I liked it, so maybe I like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a gateway for sure. Absolutely.
It's a gateway identity politics.
Epoch Gallery.
There we go.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Peter. Well, thanks for sharing all of that with us. And yeah, I know that we're both really excited to see. I'm excited for the launch of Freeport, to check out that new show,
Extremely.
to see what happens with the NFTs, and appreciative of you putting artists first, and it is really special. We are in a new space. We're in a unique space and moment in time, and for all of the fucked up issues and shit that we're going through, like, we do still have some really great moments of community and creativity and being able to make stuff together. I can't imagine my life at this age without the community that is the art world. Because like it's one of the last places I feel like we can make friends and build community and go further with each other. Like, where else would I do that?
Yeah. So and great collaborations and great conversations, and it's just helped my own practice too. And I mean, it's all an evolving thing. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into these final 10 questions, and then we'll let you go for the day.
All right.
All right. So the first one is, what is one simple thing that you're trying to get good at right now, Peter?
I'm trying to learn how to animate with Unreal's metahumans.
I don't think I understood a single word of that sentence.
So there's these metahumans that Unreal Engine has created that are super realistic. So I'm trying to figure out how to animate them. And I think I got it because I'm going to be using them for, I'm going to be making an older representation of me in a post-apocalyptic time, obviously.
Wow.
And it's going to be showing at the LAX airport at the Southwest Terminal 1 if you ever go by the food court.
Nice.
And that'll be in October. So I'm trying to learn and really kind of figure out how to do that correctly. And I mean, I learn everything through YouTube. So I do a lot of school, university talks, and I'm like, "How did you figure out how to do it?" And I'm like, and I feel bad telling them, like, "Oh, YouTube."
Oh, I mean, that's the tool. I mean, it's the one to use.
Pay for the school like you did.
Yeah. Like you jerks. I just use YouTube. Exactly.
No, education is important, but I think it's a lot about, when you go to grad school, it's more about the social and who you get to know rather than what you're really learning.
No, for sure. It's good to be nimble like that, kind of switch between those spaces. Really quick on the airport thing. How will that work be presented?
So there's going to be a video wall and a projection, and then a bunch of AI produced paintings.
Wow.
So the whole story is it's a dream I had where I am a really old man in a cabin lit by candlelight, and I am drawing in this notebook and then painting the sun over and over again. And then you see outside there's like snow coming down. Then you realize it's not really snow, it's ash, and that the sun has been blocked out. So what I'm doing is I'm recreating the sun pictorially over and over again so that future generations can know what the sun looked like.
God, wow.
That's garbage.
And with
Welcome
that, it's time for
They come through.
I was like, and with that, your flight to Minnesota, or yes,
exactly.
No, I mean that's the
at the
perfect
airport,
time.
like, how dark can I go? And they're like, well, they just can't talk about bombs or plane crashing or anything.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. I can do that.
How about the sun being covered by ash? How about that? Can we do
Yeah,
that?
how about that?
In the eternal summer that is Los Angeles too.
Yes,
exactly. So,
oh my goodness.
yeah, that's one dream I had.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I'll be out there, and probably in that airport from time to time.
Yeah, it takes
this
Southwest.
year. So
it's a new terminal.
Sick.
It's quite nice, actually. But,
we love Southwest, so.
No, it's big Southwest. Yeah, I mean
that's big adult energy. Southwest Airlines.
Yeah, that's the
Say
one.
no Delta shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the second question, Peter, what is your favorite type of gum?
Gum.
Gum.
Do you chew gum?
I don't really chew gum anymore, but I mean, when I was a kid, I was a Bubba Hubba.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Bubba Hubba there.
For sure. Oh, yeah.
Hubba Bubba?
I think, yeah,
Hubba
Hubba
Bubba.
I think.
Yeah.
Hubba Bubba.
Okay. Yeah, that the watermelon. That's
yeah, the watermelon was amazing.
That's one
I'm thinking
I
of Bubblicious though. That's I was like, wait, the lime green flavor, but no, Hubba Bubba is where it's at for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was just gonna put this one back on while we're finishing up
sure.
here, since it's the one that's happening now. Okay, I'll take the next question. Cool. Have you ever successfully completed a game of Monopoly?
Yes, I am very good at Monopoly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm very competitive actually, and I play a lot of Jenga actually because I think Jenga is how you approach life. So how people attack the Jenga tower is really saying a lot of how they go about in their own lives. So you have people that are the pokers, the people who are just careless, or people really care about the game, or certain things says a lot about them. So I use it kind of like a personality test. But as for Monopoly, I'm brutal. I'm an asshole. I'm a fucking asshole. I will just no budging. So I think Monopoly is such a horrible game, though.
Yeah,
it is.
Oh God, it's so bad.
I'm a
Let's
I'm a
teach your kids how to be super capitalistic and assholes,
just get them ready. Get
and
them
just
ready
like
for the
ruin
rest.
everything. Yeah, just ruin everything. So,
I am a
yeah.
poker when it comes to Jenga. Are you,
Oh my God, I'm deadly at poker.
oh
I,
no,
I'm the one that can stay up forever, and it's like just like the dicks, going back to the dick.
yeah.
You if you imbue enough
Speaking
energy
of
into
pokers,
it,
yeah.
you can win, or you can, especially at poker, you're like, I'm tired, but then if you really focus your energy, you can like do stuff,
Yeah.
and like you can actually win hands and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, and that's why I love poker, because it's not necessarily luck in a lot of ways. It's a lot of like
No,
how
it's
you're
not luck.
reading people, like Jenga. So
Yeah.
Oh man, I haven't talked about this on stream. I don't know if Alex is watching. He's probably not. He's in Houston right now. My girlfriend's brother streams poker professionally on Twitch, and he won 40K the other night
nice.
in a game, and I was just like, and it doesn't even matter to him because
Mm.
like that just go. It's like, oh, like because there is some luck involved in poker, but
Yeah.
bro, my heart would have exploded. I don't have the cool for that at all. Like
Yeah.
somebody cuts me off on the highway and my heart starts beating fast.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like being three seats away from the money and trying to keep my cool. I don't have
Yeah.
I don't have any cool.
No, I mean, if you watch the World Poker Championship things, they're crazy. Some of these people use such crazy tactics to try to like psych the other person out, and it's
Hmm.
just like it's insane, and it's really interesting to watch. I love watching that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Awesome. Um, Other than being an artist, if you couldn't be an artist, and what would your dream job be with no physical or emotional limits?
I mean, I when I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian,
Oh wow.
Nice.
but I found out very quickly I was allergic to almost all animals. Uh, and then
That would have been your brand. It would have been like Sniffles Vet Clinic.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, is this dog named Sniffles?
Like, no.
No.
And then I mean, I think I think I would probably be a musician, maybe, because
Oh.
there's sometimes I'm like, God, I'm quite good at it, so I don't know how to read music at all, but I know I can play it, so it's weird.
What is your instrument, by the way, or just primary?
Synth.
Synth. Okay. Yes. Let's go.
Keyboard.
Is there a place to find your music that you've made?
No, 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 no. That's
Come
Oh, so you're the
on.
private
I do use
synthesizer.
it in my
Okay.
pieces. I mean, in my projection works, I do make all the music for that. So
Okay. I will
it's just more
say
ambient type things. So
it's very par for the course. I feel like a lot of folks that are into synthesizers, synthesis, they're very private with their synthesis. They're like very at home only, private synthesizer folks.
just
And
throwing in it out.
yeah. Just make a quick soundscape for yourself. Okay, Rick, I guess I'll take the next two since you took those. What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh my God. What's the one with the fucking ducks? DuckTales.
DuckTales, yes.
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Yeah, I don't think I mean, I only had the basic TV. We didn't have cable or anything, so it's just like really basic stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't like figure out about anime until much later. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And you weren't like a PBS kid or anything like that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Because you were saying you're a latchkey kid, because I feel like that's PBS kid, latchkey kid to me
Yeah.
are very like similar space.
Yeah.
Oh, that just reminded me of a question. This isn't part of the 10 questions. Have you read The Three Body Problem in that series?
Oh my God. No, I haven't gotten to it yet,
Okay.
but I want to.
Okay, cool.
That's that's just the three body problem itself is just as a theoretical thing. Is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ask every artist that. That's actually part of the 10 questions. Rick's lying. We just like, hey, have you read this?
Oh, I wish I would talk about that series, the Dark Forest series, forever.
Forever.
They have
Okay.
a really good theory on what the whole foundation or the whole basis of this Beyond the Three Body Problem is, the Dark Forest theory, and it has to do with like intelligent life and kind of how we should approach communicating or specifically not communicating with
Yeah.
intelligent life throughout the universe.
I don't think we should.
Yes, exactly. I am on the very same page of that, and the accuracy. Oh man, those books are. Yep. Hit me up
All
after
right.
you read those.
Okay.
Let's break it
My
down when
birthday's
you
in
have time.
October. You can send them to me.
Okay, I'll send them
Okay,
to you.
perfect.
I'll bring them to you because I'll be in LA.
Oh
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
meet up. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, you guys are gonna be neighbors soon, so I'm
Oh
jealous.
yeah, you
honestly.
doing it? You coming out? Oh yeah, you're coming out here. Did you find a place? We don't talk about that now.
Oh,
Yeah,
not,
can we dox you real quick, Rick? Where are you moving
we're
to?
moving in September, so we still got a little bit of time.
So you're living on the west side?
We're gonna live with the baby strollers and the Priuses.
Oh, Culver City, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna live on the west side. I don't think we're gonna live. We're not looking at Culver City after your scathing review, but
Yes.
we gotta be on the west side for UCLA. So maybe Westwood or Sawtell or something.
Better.
Better. Okay, good.
Good.
Oh,
I
it feels
got
so good to
those.
have LA chat on the show because
Yeah.
we're used to having like Midwest St. Louis and like no shade. I mean, it's my home, so I can say whatever I want. It's just like it's a little different, you know. Here, this is nice.
Yeah, come on here.
I'm about to get
It'll
that
be good.
sun, boy.
Oh yeah,
All right.
it's gonna be loud. Well, in a very LA fashion, Peter, while driving, are you typically the giver or the receiver of the finger?
I don't have any road rage. So
Really? Okay.
I am not like Rick over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just kind of like take my time, and I don't even drive that much, so I'm basically here just making shows. So I don't really, when I do drive, I just like go out there and just do my thing, and don't drive that fast, and kind of don't give a shit really. So
Yeah.
I'm
So-
working on it. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
working on it. I gotta
Yeah,
get it
I mean,
sorted out before I come out there.
I was gonna say it's gonna be a whole new universe for you, so you're
Just
gonna have to get used,
Get my
figure
ass
out what you're doing here.
shot out there.
Just people not messing around if
Yeah.
it's in the car lifestyle, but
Well, that's what
Um,
Carly was saying about New York. Is Carly was like, "Yeah, you just don't mess around."
yeah,
yeah, there's some
Very
angry
communal.
motherfuckers out there, man.
yeah. You don't miss New York or LA.
Okay.
All right, Rick, you get the best question. I'm excited for you.
Oh yeah. The question number 7 are: what are your honest thoughts about Crocs?
Oh, I fucking hate Crocs, man, and I hate how they're coming back.
Oh, they're all the way back.
They're
Oh,
here.
God.
They're here.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're just one mold. I mean, I'm from a Chinese family, so slippers are something very, very sacred to us. So,
Oh.
like, Crocs are just a fucking beast of a fucking shoe slipper, and I don't like it, and I don't like how you can see your toes, and I don't like how they're all like holy and weird, and yeah, I don't like them.
I like-
Is there a s- yeah,
I like
good.
how you are basically saying that Crocs is like a disrespect to heritage and
Yes.
ancestry and family.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just recently got these slippers. You can't see them.
They're invisible.
Oh, so
There
they're actually Gucci slippers, and I was like,
Oh,
Mom, I made it. And
Wow.
then I made it because like when I was growing up, they would just buy me these slippers that were like in a 6-pack in the shittiest fucking plastic,
Uh-huh.
and they had a sticker at the bottom that this may cause cancer.
Yep.
And they're like, well, it's away from your head. You don't have to worry about it, And then, because they would never let me use the really fancy slippers for the guests for our house. So then when I got these slippers, I was like, yeah, I made it.
It's time. I was gonna ask, what are the Peter Wu endorsed slippers? What would you suggest the folks
These
get?
are very comfy. These the old grandma Gucci slippers are really quite where you got to go there.
Got that
Okay.
contemporary art grandma Gucci NFT money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we see you, Peter.
That's what we're trying to be.
They
Like.
were a gift. So
Oh,
That's great.
I would never buy them for myself.
that's okay. You can. I would.
Hey,
I'm
you can do whatever you
fully
want.
supportive.
I mean, I would buy them if I could.
Oh
I'd do
yeah,
it.
for sure. Not Gucci shaming around here.
Not at all. Never.
All right.
It's nice
So,
to walk around in.
do you want to take the next one, Jake?
Sure. Peter, what do you think most people get wrong about artists?
That we're stupid. I think everybody, I mean, I think from maybe from the majority of people that don't know art, they're like, well, my kid can do that, or those kinds of statements are just like, well, you don't know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the most intellectual pursuits, if you can imagine, philosophically and technically, if you want, and it relates to who you are. I think people who make art are the people who really know themselves the most and can traverse in this world and be empathetic to a lot of other things that a lot of people can't, because we're always self-reflecting on ourselves consistently. Every single time we make something, we're just looking back on ourselves all the time.
Right. Absolutely. I'll take that for sure.
Yep. We're not dumb.
Yes.
We're not dumb.
We're smarties. Come on. We got something to say.
Okay. Final two questions here. So question number 9 is, do you have a meditation practice or similar way of relaxing or connecting to the world?
I used to do Qigong, which is the oldest form of kind of like Tai Chi. A lot of breathing exercises and whatnot. I haven't done that in a little while. I should pick that back up. But
internal massage.
I do like massages a lot. I fortunately make my partner do it all the time. Like, really, again, push the buttons. I'm like, oh. But she loves me, so she does it. And I like to relax. I am working a lot right now on these shows and stuff like that. But I do value relaxation, and I think when you relax and you stop working in a certain way, you come up with your best ideas in a lot of ways. So I do like to just kick back and chill and not do much sometimes.
That's good.
And take periods of like extreme work and then periods of extreme relaxation and so on. So I don't really follow the 40-hour work week.
Yeah, you got to find time to get away from the ideas.
Yeah, and you get to ruminate on them, and new things will come about and stuff like that.
For sure.
All right, last question here. What is the most memorable response you've received about your work?
About my work?
Yeah. Can be anything.
I'm not really. I don't know, because openings are weird for me, because I don't ever know that people are fucking saying things that are truthful or not. Because like, good show, whatever, not. And I'm just like, well, I actually want conversations. That's why I really don't like my own openings in a certain way. So, but I guess with EPOCH, I guess a lot of people are really encouraged about what this space can do, and all the artists that are participating are really valuing, they're seeing what I'm doing. Because I don't think a lot of galleries or institutions really are actually seeing that the potential of what it is, and that it's expanding, how artists can really envision their own work within these spaces. So I think they're really appreciative, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to really answer that one. That's a weird way to close out the fucking thing.
No, it's okay. We realize it's kind of like it's a high risk, high reward kind of question to send us off, but some people have them, some don't, and that's
before, so I could have thought about that.
No, I'll put you right on the
spot.
We
gotta put it to you a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, everybody said some really great things about the gallery, and I'm really fortunate to have their support. But yeah, I think it's all. I don't really take those things as that. Yeah, I don't know if they really like influence in a certain way. I mean, being my friends that are critical with me and really trying to help me push things, but when people just say that things that I don't really know, then I don't really like take it too much into account. But yeah, I don't know.
For sure.
Good. No, I mean, it's just how people support you.
But I can tell you maybe just one last story about how people. I was at my birthday party and they're at my friend's house during the pandemic, and there was just like really some really close friends, and somebody brought this girl with, and she she was kind of like, I'm a kind of a person that I don't really talk to anybody. I don't really kind of vibe with, and I kind of really suss you out really quickly. And I'll purposely say things that are antagonistic or kind of really weird. And if they don't respond correctly, then I don't fuck with you and I just walk away. So this is one instance that happened. And this girl said, she's sitting next to me on my birthday. No one had the guts to ever say this to me. She goes, all these people love you. And she goes, I don't know why. And I'm like, wow. And it's like, she couldn't even think that it was her issue at all. And I'm just like, well, I just choose the people I want to be around my life, you know. And I'm actually saying like that you're one person I don't want to be in my life. So
Oh yeah, I was just saying. Ironically, you respect her now, and you're best friends, right?
Yeah. But my instincts are pretty good with that kind of stuff. But I don't know how that ties into the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no Milo and Otis. No, you know, it's like you're not no heat moment. Not so different.
I am a fighter for the things I love, and but if I don't give a shit about you, I won't give a shit about you.
Yeah, no.
But all the artists, I love all the artists I work with, and obviously because they are, I choose them.
Yeah. I mean, we need more of that. We need some more limits. I think that speaks to Rick and I for sure. We like that, you know, putting those hard lines out there.
And you guys aren't so bad yourself.
Oh, thanks. Good. I hope we've passed.
Yeah, you really threw all kinds of crazy shit at us on our first phone call, so I guess that was the test.
Yeah.
Dude was like 8 cups of coffee in, just vibing.
Yes, you're vibing out. Proper.
No, man, we had an awesome time today. I mean, so much, but also feels like so little. You know, that was like 180 TikToks.
Yeah, a lot of TikToks.
It was a lot of TikToks. But yeah, super awesome to just chill and have brunch with you and just to be able to share this awesome work that you're making and these awesome collaborations that you're putting together. Like literally, we were so excited about this. This is such like aspirational shit for Jake and I. You know, to have you on, to have somebody on who's making stuff like this on the internet, it's just crazy cool.
Really incredible.
Thank you.
So yeah,
trying, man. Trying, fighting a good fight.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to definitely check out epoch.gallery. I'll pop all of those links back in the chat. They're all here, but check that out. And then the new show Freeport is coming up, and then fly southwest so you can see Peter's installation
at
the LAX terminal.
Court. Perfect.
So yeah, links are back in the chat, and yeah, so for us, I don't think there's much coming up. I think we're taking one of those Peter Wu time away breaks from the work for a little bit.
Moving.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's lots coming up. But we're taking a couple of weeks off from the show, so we can, you know, actually, like, Tiffany's finished with her semester, so we're gonna go camping and then Father's Day stuff. So we're gonna be chilling for a little bit. I think the next show we have coming up is we might do a Artists Play Video Games Tuesday, but that has not been confirmed.
Okay.
But something to look out for.
Anything else you want to shout out, Peter, before we go?
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for everybody for listening, and the future listeners also. And stay in touch because there's going to be some exciting things going on. And I mean, it may be a trite thing to do, but I'm trying to think of trying to change things and trying to change outlooks in the world, and I'm attempting to do it, and hopefully, and I think I really have the opportunity that may maybe happen. So I'm really trying to go for it.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Power to the people.
Yeah. We're really excited to watch it happen for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're gonna take off. Jake, you wanna give us the haiku? No, I don't know. You wanna read us you wanna write us a poem?
I thought he was gonna end with a song.
Oh yeah,
I got it. Wait. All I gotta say is sometimes you gotta just play the dicks where they lie.
Yeah. Just read them dicks.
And for those who missed that portion, I will not explain it. So.
Oh my god.
All right. Well, we're taking it off. Taking it off before it gets too crazy. Yeah. See y'all in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.